Neither do I. Okay, our next reader is Joy Selak. Joy is the author of CeeGee's Gift, the story of a young girl with an unusual gift and an old man who teaches her what it truly means to be gifted. Joy is a philanthropic advisor in Austin, Texas. Joy?
So just to tee this up a little bit, I'm going to read you first a scene. You already know that CeeGee is a girl with an unusual gift, and she makes friends with an old man, and she confesses to him that she has knowings, and she's had them since she was a very young child. And often the knowings that she has, which is information about the future, is not good news. And so she feels it's a curse and a burden, not a gift. So as she gets a little older, she just stuffs it away and won't let the knowings come. So she meets this old man when she's doing a service project for school and feels that he's someone she can trust. She sees a little shining around his head, and she thinks maybe he's a little bit like me and I can tell him and maybe he can help me. So this scene is after they've been to the mainland, because she told him he was going to die soon, and so he went to get some casket lining for his casket in preparation. And it's the next day after she's confessed everything. He says, come back and talk to me in the morning, we'll talk about it. So she's back there for breakfast, and he says, don't worry, child, we're here to make things better, not worse. You trust me on that? Yes, sir, I guess so. Once again, she had the feeling he had read her mind. So second question, did you get that knowing on yourself? He asked her to try to get a knowing on herself. She says, no, sir, I didn't. I tried and tried at the marsh yesterday, but I never did. So you wonder why that might be? All the fear and frustration CeeGee had felt for so long came pouring out of her. Here's what I wonder. I wonder why me? Why'd I have to have this thing? It's never done me or anyone any good. It's just all bad news. Just stay calm, Missy. We're going to get this all sorted out. Let's sum it all up. He pointed at the air with his spoon like a music conductor. First off, as far as you're concerned, the only good thing about your gift was the time you saved your mama from getting hit by a baseball, right? CeeGee thought for a second, then nodded. But you think there's a lot of bad things, like how your knowings were about hard times for folks, or even folks passing on. Plus you got your parents and your teachers all riled up. That's right, too. CeeGee nodded again. And even though, the way you've been seeing it, this gift is all about you, it's a true thing you never got a single knowing about your own future, even when you tried. Right again? CeeGee kept quiet and just nodded. Does this tell you anything? Mr. Tyndall asked, setting down the spoon and folding his arms across his chest. It tells me having this gift is a real pain. I'd say, contrary to what you've been thinking, it tells you this gift ain't for you. You keep saying that, but I don't get how it can be my gift and not be for me. If it's for you, why can't you get a knowing on yourself? Explain that to me. I can't explain it, but it's still my gift. It ain't, it's too, ain't, is. Well, Miss Williamson, if you ask me, your stubborn thinking is what's made you so miserable and kept things from turning out right. Wait a minute, she pointed at him accusingly. What about your light? What light? It's a rainbow around your head. I saw it when I was little, and I saw it again in front of the Triple S the other day. You're saying I have a rainbow around my head? Yes, you do. I can see it. You sure? I never knew that. Mr. Tyndall reached up and topped the touch of his head like he was adjusting a crown and smiled. So, do you have a gift with your light? Have you made things okay with it? I don't have the slightest idea, Celia Jean. I mean, I know I've always been real sensitive to how other people might be feeling, like your dad said about you, but I never knew I had a light. It's nice rainbow colors, you say? Yes, and that doesn't answer my question. He quit smiling and looked at her seriously. Now you listen, young lady, because I'm telling you straight. I like you, CeeGee. I don't know things the way you do, never have. I'm happy to hear you say I have just a little light of my own because it makes me think I might be able to help you through this. He looked over at her, then said slow and serious, but in order for me to help, you have to hear what I'm saying. All right, I'm listening. I am. All right then, child, here's what I have to say to you. You haven't been given a gift, child. You have a gift to give. Oh, I lost it. It's not for you, it's for the others. There was a long silence as CeeGee sat still, trying to absorb Mr. Tyndale's meaning. I don't get it, she said finally. I'd say you're no different than anyone else. The way I see things, we each got the same job in this life. Our job here on earth is to figure out our gifts and learn how to give them. CeeGee got quiet while the wisdom of Mr. Tyndale's words gradually sank in. After a while, she spoke up. I want to help people with my gift, I do. But no matter what I want or how hard I try, my knowings bring nothing but trouble. Maybe that's because you haven't grabbed onto the other piece. It's that we need to give our gifts, each of us, with a kind and generous heart for the benefit of others. So my heart has not been kind. I think you've been too troubled and frightened by your gift and the things you've known to think about the others. But you just told me that's what you really wanted. And now together, I think we can figure out how you can have that kind and generous heart every time. CeeGee slowly folded her napkin. She ran her fingers along the creases the way her mother would do and set it on the table. She finally looked up at him. I feel terrible, Mr. Tyndale. After listening to you, I feel like I've been cursing at God or something. At first, you were too young to understand this at all, CeeGee. Now it's time for you to start thinking less about yourself and more about the folks who might need to hear what you have to say. Seems to me at the heart of it, you got a chance to tell people what direction they're headed. Then maybe some of them have a chance to change direction. If they want. She just shook her head. Girl, what are you, 12 years old? 13 in a week. Okay, 13. You're just now old enough to make a start at understanding it all. That's why you came to me. So maybe together we can figure out how you can give your gift the way you're supposed to. Do you really think we can? Yes, Missy, I do. Got a little more time? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got another 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, this is so one of the people that she has a knowing about is a boy, he's a young man now, but he used to be a ruffian, a hoodlum on a little island where she lives. And she had a knowing about him when she was very young that he was going to be in a car accident and get hurt real bad. So now it's years later, and she's now 12, 13, and he's living in a wheelchair and has become completely isolated. She has a second knowing about him at this point in real time where he has a future in front of him that he can't envision. And with Mr. Tyndale's help, she wants to find a way that she can help Ronnie know that there's more to life than living in this house in a wheelchair. So the first thing they decided to do was, she and Mr. Tyndale and her new friend Elby, is to get Ronnie out of the house. So they talk him into going to the marsh, which is a beautiful boardwalk on the island where they live. And this is the scene for really the first time this boy's been out in nature since he was hit by a car, or in this car accident. Elby and Mr. T went on ahead, and CeeGee followed behind, pushing Ronnie's chair slowly down the path until they reached the sloping ramp up the boardwalk. She pushed him up the ramp, and the marsh came into view. She stopped to take it in and heard Ronnie's low whistle when he saw the wide pond dotted with little grass-covered islands and a gentle breeze rippling the water. The late afternoon sun cast a sheen across the marsh and lit up the dragonflies that hovered above the water. Ronnie cocked his head and tried to look back over his right shoulder. CeeGee turned the chair around so he could see the shore side of the marsh, and Ronnie leaned forward in his chair to look over the railing. They both stayed quiet. First they heard the tiny pit-pat of the weak surge washing in and out, licking at the algae on the muddy shore. Then there was a slight squishing sound as turtles and mud hens patted around the water's edge. After a while, Ronnie nodded, and CeeGee turned him back around and continued down the boardwalk past Mr. T, who had settled himself on a bench. They kept going until they arrived at a small turnout with another bench, a place where people could get off the boardwalk and sit and watch the wide expanse of water. CeeGee went up to the guardrail and leaned against it. She breathed in the marsh, then breathed out all the busyness of the last weeks, and breathed in the marsh again. She felt the breeze come up on her face and heard the cattails rustle against each other, which seemed to cue the songbirds deep in the brush to join in. She glanced back at Ronnie, and he had his head cocked. He was listening too. Soon the whole marsh symphony began to play its soft and tender tune, layered with sounds that were completely different from the windy, booming bravado of the beach. CeeGee felt her spirit go calm and her mind go quiet. For her, this is what the marsh was, a place where she could come to just be, to see, to hear, and to feel, a rich entry into another place, not a place to take pictures or check off bird names or even point at anything. Ronnie looked so at peace. CeeGee settled on the bench next to his wheelchair, and they stayed that way for a long time in silent admiration and awe. Soon a few herons landed, daintily lifting their long legs as they stepped through the shallows, their curved necks bent down to the water watching for fish. Smaller ibis walked on their short stilts across the many little islands, getting lost in the grasses, then appearing again. The multicolored ducks seemed to perform in front of the boardwalk, swimming around in circles like ice skaters doing exercises in their fancy, flashy costumes of silver and purple, teal, and cinnamon. Terns were posted like soldiers all over the marsh, all facing the same way, the black caps on the tops of their heads ruffled by the light breeze. CeeGee looked over at Ronnie again. His usual suspicious gaze had melted into wonder, and she knew the marsh had filled his whole heart with its pure, sweet song, just as it did hers.